Thank you very much for purchasing the STS Series O-ring replacement kit. With proper maintenance, these sensors can last many years, and this is a critical part of that procedure. My name is Rick, and today I'll be taking you through the process of replacing the O-rings on the back end or the cable end of the sensor here. Before we do that though, I want to take some time to go over the required supplies, go over the basic sensor anatomy, and then we'll get into the instructions, which are very easy to follow, but there are some precautions to be aware of so that you get the maximum life of your sensor with the best care for it. Here are the supplies you'll need. First, a pHionics STS Series sensor. Second, the pHionics STS Series O-ring replacement kit for the cable connector and electrode body. Third, some silicone grease. Kits do come with pre-greased O-rings and a little bit of extra grease that you can take out and use on the internal part of the sensor, but it never hurts to have some extra grease around to make sure that you get a really good seal. Additionally, you'll also want some paper towels to dry off the sensor and dry off the components that we're going to be using to make sure that no water has any chance of entering the sensor, as that can easily damage the electronics over time. Along those same lines, we also want to make sure we have a clean workstation that is dry, and we also want clean, dry hands while handling the sensor and taking it apart, again, to ensure that moisture does not enter the sensor. As far as sensor anatomy goes, what we will need to be aware of for this video in particular is the metal housing and the cable connector, as well as how deep the circuit board actually is in the housing, which is roughly an inch deep from the cable end. Step one is to thoroughly dry the exterior of the sensor. Once done, grip the cable connector right here and the metal housing, and then we want to turn it out. The cable connector end can sometimes take a very strong set after years of use, which is where the rubber band from the replacement kit comes in. Simply slide it over, and this will give you a better grip on the cable connector, so you can then easily twist it off. Once the sensor is apart, take a look at the cable connector end and inside the housing to look at the gold connector inside for any signs of corrosion or wear that may signal it's time for the sensor to receive some additional maintenance. Contact support at pHionics.com if you do see any signs, and we'll take you through those steps. Step 4, place the sensor and cable on a dry workstation. Using a dry portion of your paper towel, go ahead and stick it gently inside the tube and go around that edge 360 degrees. We want to make sure there's no water left inside this housing that could get trapped once we do put the cable back on. And be careful not to scrape the gold connector that's roughly an inch deep in the housing. A towel won't damage it, but any exposed fingernails or sharp objects, I definitely could. Go ahead, set the sensor down, again, somewhere where it is not going to roll off. Do the same for the cable connector, making sure to dry it thoroughly. To remove the cable connector O-rings here, what we want to do is pinch from one side. Now, it does take a little bit of finagling, but you will see that we can get a good amount of slack in the O-ring here by pinching from the side and again, basically pushing up on one end. Now, we can simply roll that out of the O-ring groove and off of the connector. The reason why we're recommending to do it this way, as opposed to say like just going in with an X-Acto knife and cutting the O-ring, is because any sort of scrape on that O-ring groove there may be enough to break the seal and prevent the sensor from ever sealing again. You may use an X-Acto knife if you want to, after you get that slack in the O-ring. And once the O-ring is far enough away from the groove that you cannot possibly damage it, then you can just cut it, take it off from there. Once done, go ahead and take another paper towel, and we want to just clean those O-ring grooves here, making sure we remove any residual water that could be trapped inside of them. Now, let's go ahead and remove the remaining pieces from the O-ring replacement kit here. We have the 10 greased O-rings along with the O-ring placement tool here. What this does is it slides right over the threads, so the O-ring can be easily pushed on and slide into those grooves here. Take one of the greased O-rings, slide it on over the tool, and then align it with that first O-ring groove here. Take a second greased O-ring, and then do the same till it slides into that second O-ring groove. Now what we want to do is take a little bit of the extra grease in the O-ring bag and just apply it around the interior 1/4 inch of the housing to make sure that we have a really good seal. Screw the cable connector into the housing, until the cable connector is flush with the housing. Please note that attempting to over tighten could strip the threads, so we do not want to use too much force here. It should slide in relatively easily with just a little bit of pressure going forward. That concludes our instructions for replacing the O-rings on the cable connector. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at support@pHionics.com. Our goal is always to support our products to the best possible extent, whether they are in or out of warranty, because we want these to last as long as possible for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.